And since we already went through that process, I thought, let's get to the best part about being a meteorologist in general, which is tracking some strong to severe storms, tracking the weather in general. So now is the time where we're going to put all the tools that you guys have learned together, and we'll walk through what exactly is going on and what we can expect. And this will also be a little heads up, because normally when there's active weather, we would be doing weather briefings anyways. And so this is to inform you guys that there is a severe weather threat for the Houston area this evening. Here's where it's all beginning. So I'm starting off with a big picture of Texas. This radar scan, it's showing a time lapse of the last 3 hours. So that's why we start with no storms. It starts at about 11 a.m. finishing at 2 p.m. So it's showing a 3-hour span of how the storms are generating. And the reason why we like to look at time lapse like that is because it tells the story of the progression of these storms, how they're developing. Are they strengthening? Are they weakening? What type of scenarios do we think will happen because of this? And it's also in this graphic showing us what types of watches or warnings that are issued. Now, we did previously have our first severe thunderstorm warning out in the hill country. So I'm zooming into the hill country. Here's Austin. There's Waco, I-35 corridor. These storms are just west of I-35, but notice how they've just been blossoming. And what I'm also looking at is the lightning associated with this. So if you can look very, very closely, we have lightning strikes embedded within these storms. That lets me know that we have a lot of instability in the atmosphere, which is what we expected and why we expected this severe weather potential to unfold. So the atmosphere is unstable, meaning that any storms that pop up, they have the capability of growing tall, tall, tall into some severe storms, and also bringing a lot of lightning. So these storms are convective, and notice how fast that line is moving. So that's something I'm watching very, very closely, because we're way west of this line of showers and storms. But some cool little tools that I have on my graphic system here. We have a forecast tracker. So what I already set up for you guys is a forecast tracker to kind of let me know when exactly are these storms going to hit Houston, right? Because we live in Houston, we're watching this line, we know it's going to impact us. It's all about the timing though, right? So I put on the forecast tracker, and I'm actually very impressed with the timing, with also our forecasting, with what the models have been showing, along with what this forecast is. So I can type in how fast these storms are moving. They're moving at about 40 to 50 miles an hour. So if those storms are racing at 40, 50 miles an hour and they continue to maintain their strength, which I do believe they're going to maintain the strength, because we're in the peak of we're in the peak heat of the day, so we have a lot of daytime heating going on. That's going to help fuel these storms. The sun's still going to be up for several more hours. As long as that sun's out, as long as we don't have a cap in the atmosphere, that's going to allow these storms to continue to not only race eastward and close to the Houston area, but also to maintain their strength and to keep generating some potentially severe storms. So timing right now, Austin, in the next hour or 20 minutes or so, 3:17 is what this model is expecting. Houston around the 8 o'clock hour for us, which is exactly what we have been forecasting. And then for the coastal areas in Galveston, notice a 2-hour difference. That's kind of a long time from Houston to Galveston, 2 hours later. That's because we're expecting this line to slow down as it moves through the Houston area later on today. Sorry, I accidentally drew a little something on the board, but I just erased it. Okay, so we have one alert in place, an aerial flood advisory, meaning that we do possibly have some minor flooding in that region. Heavy storms right now in the La Paz region, but other than that, no severe thunderstorm warnings at this time. Again, we don't have anything on our radar here. Those storms are still a couple, about 100, 150 miles west of us. So here's our severe threat. Here's the setup. And this is an update that the Storm Prediction Center put out of our severe threat. We always show this graphic. It has a category 1 out of 5. It just kind of helps inform the public a little easier. How bad is this scenario? How bad are we talking? And right now we're at a category 3 out of 5 for the potential of severe weather. And the update from today's storm severe threat to yesterday's is that this enhanced risk has expanded a little bit. Okay, so the more expanded it is, that tells me a couple of things. One of the things it does tell me is that it's a little bit more widespread, the threat, but also we aren't very precise on the exact location where a severe storm could pop up, but we do know that somewhere within this orange shaded color, that's where we have the most instability. That's with the timing of these storms, with the peak daylight heating that we have, the heating in the atmosphere, the majority of the instability. This is the area that we're mostly concerned for. Notice Houston is included in that enhanced risk, but our big concern will be for our north and western counties, and our models clearly show that. Okay, so several risks associated with this. So one of the things we look at is the hail risk and the wind risk and the tornado risk. I'm going to start off with our wind risk, or for damaging winds today. Notice this red or pink shaded color, whatever color it comes up on your monitor. I'm going to call it red, a 30% chance for strong damaging winds. So these storms are going to have the possibility of anywhere from 50+ mph wind gust. Damaging winds, they could cause just as much damage as a tornado sometimes. There is a possibility of some microbursts, some downbursts with these storms that can cause some damaging winds, and also about a 15% chance as we head further southeast. So notice, I want you to notice the pattern that the greatest threat is north and east of us. That includes for a chance of tornadoes, and that includes for a chance for large hail. So what's the reason for that? The main reason is the timing of these storms. Once we're expecting this line of showers and storms to push south and east, we're losing a lot of fuel in the atmosphere. The sun is setting, right? That's somewhere in the 7 o'clock hour. Once that sets, we don't have as much fuel in the atmosphere. We still have enough from the very warm day, but those storms are starting to weaken, and so we're tracking a slightly less threat as we head closer to the coast, but we still expect not only damaging winds and large hail as a primary concern. We can't rule out an isolated tornado, although that threat is very, very low. It's at about 2% chance compared to the 30% chance for large hail and damaging winds, but at a 2% threat, and then as we head southeast, less than a 2% threat. So I think our north and western areas, a very, very small chance for some rotation. But our signs of seeing some rotation within these storms has weakened a lot. We're not seeing enough wind shear. Wind shear is change of winds with height. So we need winds to be shifting at different directions, coming in from different directions in order to help bring a spin in the atmosphere. And that helps bring in the threat for tornadoes at a greater chance. And that's not necessarily the case at this time. That threat has actually decreased significantly. So hail and winds is what we're watching. Now let's track future track, okay? So I can set up my timing on what would be most important to us. So we're looking at 6 p.m. here. Did I start at 6 p.m.? No, I actually want it to start at 3 p.m. It is 2:10. So I do want to kind of motivate you guys also if we have any students who are really interested in meteorology. Today is the perfect day for you guys to join us in tracking these storms. And the way that you can do that, grab your cell phone, your tablet, your parent's cell phone or whatnot, download the KHOU app, okay? So I'm going to my app store, I have an iPhone, type in KHOU, you can download our app. I'm going to pull up our app. You can't see, but I do want to let you know that once it opens up, you can track radar on this app, and you can see our latest updates also. Our top story on the app right now is the weather update. You can click on that, you'll have live updates. If you swipe to the side, which it normally works, my screen's cracked because I broke it. There you go, I swept to the side. We have a whole weather section, and this is where you can look at radar live also and all of the latest updates. So you guys can track these storms with us. It's going to be a pretty active day if you're interested in meteorology. Here's what our forecast models are showing. So just because it's showing on the forecast models does not necessarily mean that that's going to pan out that way. So this is where us as a scientist, you as a future meteorologist comes into play with your expertise, with your history and knowledge of how these type of scenarios play out in this specific region of the country. And also with the history of the storm, which is why it's very important to see what's happening on radar right now to kind of compare it with what the future is. right? Because that helps complete the story. Sometimes these computer models, they don't pick up all that data. They're forecasting out of historical events that don't necessarily always put out the best data. So that's something that we watch very, very closely. So I'm fast forwarding to 6 p.m. Notice at 3 o'clock, we're dry, we're quiet, and our way from there, nothing in sight, right? Radar is clear. Now by this evening, I'll actually slow it down. Let's see what's gonna happen at 4. And this is, I have to let you know, just one specific model. I actually wanna, just to make sure what specific model we're looking at. If you can just bear with me 1 second, because we have several models. Okay, this is the HRRR model. So HRRR, best high resolution model, best short-term forecast. So let's see. So great model to look at this time. Okay, here we are. 3 p.m., we're quiet, nothing going on. 5 p.m., we're starting to see the strongest of the storms move into our north and western counties. We have some light possible sprinkles ahead of the front. Now we're fast forwarding to 6 p.m. Okay, notice some pop-up storms. They're able to pop up closer to the downtown Houston area, but by 6 p.m., I think our north and eastern counties are definitely going to start to begin to see some of these strong to possibly severe storms. I'm seeing some embedded pink shaded colors. That lets me know that some hail is a threat, is possible within these storms also, and heavy rain as well. Okay, now I'm fast forwarding to 7, because if you live in Houston, you probably want to know, hey, Erica, when should I be worried about these storms? So here we are, Houston. I think the best time frame will be anywhere between 6, starting 6, even though this is showing 7. Let's see, still showing strong storms through possibly 10 p.m. Something that I have noticed is that these models have been trending later and later. So we have our original forecast, which I believe was the greatest threat from 3 to about 10 p.m. I'm actually going to switch that up, and I'm going to push it till 11 p.m. just to be safe. But keep in mind, the sun is down, so even though we could see heavy rain, I think the majority of the severe storms, because of the lack of instability in the atmosphere, we're starting to use up all that energy. The severe threat shouldn't be as great the later that we go in the after hours, after sun sets. But we still see heavy rain. There we are for the coastal areas through about 10. So even though the severe threat will end at about 10, so we're still talking a wet overnight, light rain still hanging out into Friday. Rain chances do stick around through Friday, but they are primarily light. Okay, so that's kind of how we walk through looking at this, but that was only one model. So I have looked at all the other models, the RPM model, we have a NAM model, GFS, Euro, several different models, and you kind of want to put the puzzle pieces together, and then me as a meteorologist, I choose which one I think is the best scenario to show you guys. But again, you have to take every graphic, every computer model that you see that we show as meteorologists with a grain of salt, okay? Because the timing, the scenario could change, and every single model could show something slightly different. All right, so here's our severe weather threat. We looked at it together. 3 to 10 p.m. is the window that we really want to watch out for. Why as early as 3 if that forecast model was showing that we were kind of quiet until 4? This scenario, it is common for these cold fronts to come in a little bit faster. So we are, putting in a safer window of 3 p.m. until 10 p.m. Remember, it's still raining after 10 p.m., but we think the severe threat, it will be done by about 10 p.m., even though rain will be ongoing throughout the rest of the evening. So heavy rain, storms, greatest threat will be hail. We looked at the hail threat, winds, and an isolated tornado is possible. Again, even though that threat is very, very low, it's still something that we'll be watching out for. Anytime there's a severe thunderstorm warning, we'll watch out for it. Okay, so I want to show you this graphic here, and then I'll show you the 7-day forecast and then answer some questions, and then I'll head out and get ready for the 411. But here's a look at what we should be doing. You as a viewer, or you as a future meteorologist, or someone who's interested in this science and wants to help keep your family safe, because that's why we're here, right? Our job is to warn you guys what's going on, what could potentially happen, and to keep you guys safe. Okay, so here's what you need to know about what you should be doing right now. So here's where we are right now, before severe weather, where severe weather is knocking on our doorstep. It's going to arrive this evening, right? So we're here right now. You need to monitor the forecast. You're tuning in right now, doing a good job already. All right, make sure you have multiple ways to receive weather information and warnings. This is something we say all the time. Here's a few different ways that you can do it. NOAA Weather Radio, the internet. If you're tuning in right now, you have the internet. So local TV and radio, perfect. You're tuning into your local media at this moment. So you can keep on doing that throughout this evening. We'll have updates on that. David Paul will be in this evening, so he'll likely be tracking a lot of those storms. I'll be behind the scenes actually at home and doing a lot of digital stuff if needed. Okay, we have wireless emergency alerts and mobile apps. This is why it's very important to download the KHOU app so that you get those alerts on your phone. If there's a severe thunderstorm warning that you need to know about, you don't necessarily have your local meteorologist on, then you can get alerts on your app. You get an alert, oh yeah, I need to tune in because there's a severe thunderstorm warning that's already in our area. So also you want to make sure you're discussing a plan to, I'm going to erase my beautiful art there. Discuss your plan for taking shelter with family. Identify a safe location you will go to if your home is under a warning. So this should always happen. I know sometimes it may feel awkward to feel over-prepared, but think of the scenario that we're in right now with a pandemic. You always want to be prepared, whether it's for a pandemic, whether it's for weather. Here in Houston, we deal with a lot of severe weather. It is very important just to get together with your loved ones, with your families, with your friends. You're all at home right now, right? Might as well just get together, huddle up. Make sure you have a game plan of where you guys are going to go, where you have a safe space in your house. Figure out that room in your house that's the safest. For me, it's actually my restroom. It's one of the most interior rooms in my house. I have a 2-story house. It's at the first floor. It's the most interior room that does not have windows. Okay, so those are kind of the main rules. Or if you have a basement, not many basements here at all actually, and you can choose your basement. But again, as low as you can go to the ground, so likely the first floor, and then the most interior room, which does not have any windows. So think of a closet, think of a restroom. But I encourage you guys to go find that space right now when we stop with this Facebook Live feed or digital update, that you guys, you know, just go kind of talk it out, and then no one's in a panic whenever a warning does happen, if a warning does happen. And then you're, you know, it's a little less stressful of a scenario. You can just go in there, hang out, wait it out, turn on your phone, listen to us meteorologists, and we'll let you know when that warning has expired and when it's safe to go out. So if you're in a mobile home, consider moving to a sturdier shelter if possible. That's something that is always important. Also, if you have friends, relatives, give them a call right now. Ask them, hey, if a scenario like this were to occur, is that something that I can do? So just call a friend, call a loved one. And obviously right now it's a little difficult with the whole social distancing, but just, you know, see if you can coordinate that somehow in a safely manner, including social distancing. So if a warning is issued, so this may happen later on today, if you get an alert on your phone and a warning is issued, seek shelter in a sturdy building. Go into an interior windowless room on the lowest floor. So again, my bathroom, first floor, no windows, it's kind of in the middle of the house. Rule of thumb, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. So if you have a room that has no windows, it's to the very right of the house, but you also have a room with no windows in the middle of the house, go for the middle, because that has the majority of the walls between you and the outside as possible. That includes, you know, usually a closet, a restroom. You can kind of communicate with your loved ones and see which room. That is, get away from all windows. Why are windows so important? Because the windows can crack and shatter with large hail, damaging hail, with tornadoes, strong damaging winds, and that can definitely injure you severely and possibly even cause some deaths. Don't bother attempting to open the windows. You know, just another little tip there. And use cushions, blankets, coats, etc. as protection from debris. So just wanted to kind of, inform you guys of what's going on in the forecast, what we'll be tracking today. I think it'd be a lot of fun for you guys to have a radar up and track this weather with us as we're going. Now, if you wanted some positivity in the forecast, even though we have a few more wet days ahead, Easter Sunday, the first half, we're still talking some rain chances. It's the second half of Easter. That's beautiful, so you can go get some fresh air. And check this out. Next week, we finally get sunshine. We finally get a dry weather pattern and actually some chilly mornings. By Wednesday and Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and even Thursday morning, waking up to 40s in mid-April. I'll take it. Okay, so I'm going to ask Randy. He's been on hold, our digital manager here, and letting me know if there's any questions. Randy?
Yeah, Edison in first grade at Cyfair ISD wants to know what causes thunderstorms.
Oh, good question. So these are actually, that's a topic that we have in our previous. Randy, if I'm not wrong, we're saving these weather schools on YouTube, right?
Yep, they're all in a YouTube playlist.
Okay, cool. So I will briefly go through what causes a thunderstorm, but then if you want to go more in depth, go to our YouTube page, KHOU, and you'll find one of our weather schools that can go more in depth than that. So we need a few things, right? So we need moisture. We got rain, we got a lot of moisture. I talked about daytime heating. We need heat to fuel the atmosphere. We need the atmosphere to be pretty unstable. And then we need some type of lifting mechanism. So that can be a cold front. That can be an area of low pressure, some type of frontal boundary. We need the clashes of two different air masses. So what we have right now is a cold front with a lot of cold air behind it. And then we have a we have warmer temperatures ahead of that cold front. So those two air masses, they're clashing together. That is what creates lift in the atmosphere. So that's what's going to push those clouds to get taller and taller and taller. And the taller those storms are, we have stronger storms that become severe, and that's why these storms are just blossoming. And because it's right along the cold front where that lift is happening, and those storms are able to grow and intensify, dump a lot of rain. That's why we have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings popping up, and heavy rain also. All right, Randy, next question.
Yep, Misha wants to know what the purple is on radar.
What the purple is on radar. Purple. I don't see purple. Do you see purple?
No, I think I've seen it before. I don't see it on this one.
Yeah, Misha. Misha, was that the name?
Yep.
Okay, so Misha was probably looking at our future track. So the difference of radar and future track is that radar is what's happening right now. Okay, so this is radar. It's happening in the moment. Our satellite and radar is showing us what is going on at the moment. Okay, but what you were probably seeing, Misha, which actually a lot of people do get confused, is our forecast computer models. So sometimes people call this radar. This technically is not radar because it's not happening right now. This is predicting what is possibly going to happen in the future at 6:30 p.m. So I think you were talking about this, Misha, and that pink, purplish color, that's letting me know heavy rain, hail, all possible, a possible severe storm. So pink is one of the colors that let us know that we have the potential for the stronger storms to occur that have the possibility of dropping some pretty good sized hail. All right.
Okay. Let's see, a couple more. How fast are tonight's storms moving? Brian wants to know.
Yes, good question. And I set up our storm tracker here, which I actually need to update it. So I'm going to update that. So these storms, let's see, still kind of on time. These storms are moving at about 40 to 50 miles an hour. Excuse me. I don't know why I got something stuck in my throat. Okay, they're currently moving at about 40 to 50 miles an hour, but I want you to point something out here. So notice, let's see, from Austin to Seguin, Austin is about right there to Seguin, that's moving in less than an hour. So these storms moving in less than an hour, but I want you to point out Houston and Galveston, the timing that our forecast is showing, from about 8 to about 10 p.m. So that's kind of indicating that these storms may slow down a little bit, but I think on average they will be moving at about a 40 to 50 mile an hour speed until we start to clear out. But even though the severe threat will clear out, still expecting rain on the backside of this to kind of last throughout the majority of the night. Okay, next question.
Yeah, Birdie from a previous lesson wants to know if we can expect a microburst today.
Good question. Hey, I'm gonna get some water real fast. I was actually eating lunch just a little bit ago and then talking a lot, and we'll see. We'll see if this helps. Okay, microbursts. Microbursts are possible with these storms. So that's actually going to be one of the threats, strong damaging winds, including microbursts. And keep in mind, microbursts can be just as damaging as tornado threats, even though the winds are not bringing in rotation with these storms, but we're talking a downburst of winds that could cause straight line damaging winds that could get up to tornadic speed levels. So that's something that we will be watching out for tonight.
Okay, and then let's see, last one is, are we expecting potential tornado capable winds, which I think you mentioned earlier?
Yes, so our tornado threat, very, very, very minimal. It's at a 2%. It's something we can't rule out. It is actually something we will, a lot of times whenever there's a severe weather scenario, it's a very minimal threat and it's at a 2%. Now keep in mind a 2% compared to the 30% chance for large damaging hail and then strong damaging winds. So with this scenario, it is going to be more of a hail and a wind event. So take your vehicles inside. Storms are popping up for the Houston area. Anytime after 6, 7 p.m., I think 8 p.m., 7 to about 10 p.m. would be the main time frame. So try to put your vehicles, under a covered area. If you're worried about damage, if you're worried about damage to any patio furniture, make sure it's in a secure covered area as well this evening before those storms approach.
Okay, and last question from Ray. Do these storms have a flooding threat?
Oh, good question. I really didn't cover a lot of that. So much to talk about that and talk about flooding very much. So yes, there is a flooding component with this. So with these storms pushing through, and some of them will begin to train as they get closer to Houston, we're talking rainfall rates of up to 2 to 3 inches by the hour. So flooding is possible, especially on roadways. And we've had a decent amount of rain recently, so that's something that we'll be watching very, very closely. These green shaded colors, those are already flood warnings for river levels. So river levels, bayous can be something that we watch. The good news is that they're moving out pretty quickly, the heavy rainfall rates, but the bad news is that if any of these storms slow down, which they very well could once they approach the Houston area, then we're talking about ongoing rainfall rates of 2 to 3 inches. So it's something we will be watching out for tonight as well.
Okay, and that should about do it.
All right, cool. Well, I guess I'll still hop on, ask any more questions if anyone watches this a little bit later. But I hope you guys are enjoying our weather schools. And again, today's the day that you can track these storms with us, kind of putting all of your meteorological knowledge together. And we'll talk about some weather all evening long. So I hope you guys have a great afternoon, and we'll see you on the 411. Bye.